Oh, we had a couple of things happen since we've talked last. Lightweight title fight gets established. Khabib, who retired 11 weeks ago, there's a headline that Khabib retired today. I'll play along. Khabib retired today. Are you all stunned? Khabib retired today. So we're going to put his belt up somewhere. Conor Poirier was obvious. It was obvious. First off, because it was the only meaningful 155-pound fight that we had. It involved Dustin Poirier. It involved the champ Conor McGregor. It was obvious. Always give the crowd what they want. Never give them what they're expecting. And for Dana White to come in and make Chandler Oliveira, a fight we didn't know was in the works. As a matter of fact, it looked as though it was Gaethje versus Chandler. So for Dana to bring in Chandler versus Oliveira, which on paper makes all the sense, nobody can argue against. Nobody. The boys in the back can't argue. No pundit can argue. No one can argue. It makes all the sense. To make that the fight, presumably, the winner of Poirier-Conor goes into that. But again, why am I presuming that? The only piece of evidence I have is that's the only 155-pound main event that's named. It's all I have to presume about. I share that with you because from a promoter's standpoint, and this wasn't done from a promoter standpoint, this was done by a promoter, this was done for a competitive standpoint. But for somebody to look at Conor versus Poirier, which works, it needs nothing else. We know that not only because it's a trilogy, we know that because we just did it. It works. But to have Chandler and Oliveira, who are fantastic but not known, they're just not. That's changing rapidly, but they're just not. If that was the knock, and now one of them draws in to the winner, Poirier-Conor, who, by the way, could be Conor. I mean, you better believe Red Panty Night is still a real thing. That's still the guy. That's still the guy to get on the docket with, okay? Just saying, your opportunities and your options are so much stronger by doing this, not to mention from a competitive standpoint. It is everything that you would need without attempting to explain how does Conor get a title fight after getting knocked out in his last one, right? I mean, if this was the move. Dana nailed this. He nailed this. And it was a real surprise. It was a real treat. And I'll tell you another one that got booked. And we've been talking about this. I had a funny suspicion this was going to happen, as did you guys, right? I don't get credit for this, but I'm talking about Sandhagen and Dillashaw. I had a funny suspicion the night that Aljo became champion that this fight was going to be defaulted to. It's a great fight. Incredible match. X's and O's are fantastic. It would seem to me this also answers the question of is Henry Cejudo back? And the answer is no. Is he, could he, will he still come back? Yes. But when Henry came out and said, I'm back, this tells me he has not contacted the office, which is the only difference. Once he calls the office and says, I'm back, it's totally different. But it also tells me that that didn't happen. Because now not only do we have presumably the title fight, which is of course the rematch with Jan and Sterling, we also have what's clearly a number one contenders match. I just don't know how you could bring in anybody. And by the way, I got to tell you, I didn't get my way. I did not get my way. How we do anything right now with at least trying to get TJ Dillashaw and Uriah Faber together, for me, is a miss because I don't know that fight works in the future. I think it works right now. I know Faber's game. I mean, I'm just sharing what I know. I'm not saying TJ's not. I know that Uriah is, and just know as the fans, that was the fight to make, and I don't know that you can sell that later on. Because TJ is so goddamn good, and TJ is going to be ranked so goddamn high. I just think coming off that 2-year suspension, right? Because Faber's only got one thing against him, which is he's my age. It's the only thing he's got against him, but I think that you solve that problem with a younger guy if you have the story of the 2-year layoff. Look, it isn't going to happen. It doesn't matter what I have to say. That's not going to happen. That's not ever going to happen. The fact that TJ and Sandhagen are happening, we can all quit talking about Uriah and TJ. It's just not going to happen for us. Sad. I got to tell you, that's a sad one. But Sandhagen versus TJ appears to me to not only be set up because of the knee that Jan threw. I just don't see any other scenario that is likely that was ever the fight that they were going to make until Jan threw the knee. And I only say that to you because TJ's been back since January and everybody wants to see TJ. I just went down to TJ's gym, just put in perspective. Okay, I'll personalize this. But I'm not only audited on YouTube, it's a public audit. The public can see the numbers. I went down to TJ's gym. I was on vacation. Called up Ryan. He comes down with the camera. We filmed TJ working out. I put that on YouTube. It went crazy. Which is a publicly audited number. So I have very good evidence to share with you guys. TJ's in high demand. Very high demand. And the reluctance of announcing his next opponent, my guess, is that he was being considered to step in against Jan or Aljo immediately. But because of the knee and the way it ended, and we're going to redo that he and Sandhagen ended up together. I don't know that I overarchingly have a point here. By the way, in case you guys are sticking around and go, what's Chael getting at? Guess what? Don't be jerks all the time, okay? Sometimes there's not always a point. Don't worry about what's on the test. Just enjoy the class, okay? And here's what the class is. I believe that by default, these guys have been put together. I believe that they are going to do the rematch of Jan versus Sterling, which if I was Sterling, I would push back on. And I believe that Cejudo is not officially back. That's the point. Don't be rude to me. That was my point.